Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second episode of Nearly Verified. Today, very big day. I have the pleasure of introducing Sam Lister. He is a 20-year-old LinkedIn phenomenon. Yes, out of Milwaukee that just started creating videos on his phone to document his journey of entrepreneurship, and inevitably people started catching on. Sam founded Blank Slate Media the day before he turned 19, so we're coming up on 2 years, October 2nd. He is the founder of Blank Slate Media, the host of the Starting Blank podcast, keynote speaker, amongst many other things. At the age of 18, he got his first client from his LinkedIn content, and the rest, they say, is history. So Sam, thank you so much for being here, man. I really appreciate you.
Phenom, Matt, thank you so much for having me on. I'm super pumped to kick with you for this for these next minutes. So again, super pumped to be on here.
Awesome. That's awesome. I'll kick it off with a toughie. You have your own podcast, you make content, you are an entrepreneur starting your own business, but if you had to pick a dream guest for your podcast, who would it be?
Elon Musk,
easily,
hands down.
Easily.
I've been fascinated with Elon since I was young, probably early middle school. So I got into like Tesla and just what Elon was doing with SpaceX and Neuralink and everything, probably like my 6th or 7th grade year. And then I've just been kind of obsessed this whole time. So I did my senior year environmental project on Tesla and their solar roofs and everything they were doing. So again, just a huge Elon fan, but yeah, that's no doubt the number one guest I would have.
Have you seen him on Joe Rogan?
I have. I've watched both episodes front to back.
Man, he's such an interesting dude, but something that kind of not creeps me out, but just weirds me out a bit is how you can just see the cogs turning in his brain. He'll stop and pause for a little bit too long, but then he'll come out with and just the way he speaks, I don't know. But that would be
he's so interesting because he's an awful speaker, and I think he's an introvert at heart, and he's just pretty socially awkward, and you could tell. And it's just so I love watching him because he's one of the smartest dudes of our generations, I would argue. One of the smartest entrepreneurs ever. And here's this dude just selling shorts for $69 and 420 cents to stab at people, and he's just a fascinating character. So I just love everything he's doing. He's right on the edge of he doesn't give a shit about anything, whoever says anything, whether that be the SEC or any short sellers out there. So I don't know, fascinating dude. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah, the shorts too, those were pretty jokes, but man, I believe in you. I think you'll get there. Elon's on the list.
Thank you, man. Thank you. So
cool. So I think we'll just jump right into it, my boy.
Yeah, man.
Let's talk Starting Blank. So you started this media agency, videography and events, which is super cool. So you recorded your first video on LinkedIn August of 2018, and then magically September 2018 you got your first client. So could you just kind of walk us through what that looked like and what that meant for you? Also, fun fact, it was with your iPhone, which is crazy. So I just want to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, man. So I started just making videos in April of 2018. So a few months before I hopped onto LinkedIn in August, like you said, really just telling people what I was doing at the time. So I wasn't going to college. I was just graduated high school. So going into what would have been my freshman year of college, I just really didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I was just testing a lot of different things, involved in some small startups here and there. Just really, really testing everything. And I was just telling people what I was trying to do. I was doing stuff in e-commerce and real estate and you name it. I know we'll talk about failures later, but failure after failure, but I was just documenting and just telling people, this is my life. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm just here to learn. So I hopped on LinkedIn in August of 2018. And from there, I just kept making videos. And then people started reaching out to me asking if I could make videos for them. And I said just yes to every single opportunity. And sure enough, I landed my first video client from there. And then, like you said, the rest is history. So I'm cool. I'm finally making money on my own without a boss, doing what I think I love, or I enjoy videos. I just enjoyed the process of learning. So I just learned really quickly and just taught myself everything from editing and getting clients and sending invoices and writing contracts and literally everything you need to start a business. So it is just really built on the back of my personal brand is how I started. Again, with just my iPhone, I was just really focused on the story and how do you tell people stories with the like physical equipment you had. Obviously, launching a video production agency, which we would later develop into, isn't a small thing to do, and it's an expensive thing to do. But I'm like, okay, I can make money just doing it with my iPhone at the time. So that's what I did. So I just stayed super lean, invested everything I made back into the company, and here we are 2 or so years later, still alive.
It's awesome, man. No, it's an incredible story. The fact that you started that way and it started just with documenting, right? And that's actually another question I had for you, because that is for like some people who, don't talk to a camera and are comfortable in that way. Like, how did you kind of start that, and how did you build upon those skills? Because that's something that I take from you and from Q and from like a lot of the people on LinkedIn and social media. Like, documenting is such a huge way to create context. You can break it down. You can also look back. Like, you can look back at those videos from like 2018 and see how much you've changed, especially your hair. Your hair was super long, which was funny. It's long now, but it's looking good. Not that it didn't look good back then too. Don't get me wrong. But no, man, like just being able to document that and kind of look back at how you've developed. So I just started now before my first 2 interviews. So before this one and before Q, turn on the camera and I'm like, okay, I'm nervous as hell. I don't really know what I'm doing, but we're going to go for it. We're going to, trust in the research and trust in the ability that I have to speak somewhat, and hopefully we'll, make progress. But I'm not comfortable, man. Like, I don't feel like I am one with the camera yet. So just going into like how you documented yourself and how you just kind of voiced your opinion to the camera, like what are some tips you have there?
Dude, you are on the right path, my friend. I hated video at first, and there's still like before every podcast, there's still a little bit of like nervous jitters of like, well, let's get into it. Like, hopefully, I don't mess up or say something I'm not supposed to. But I think one of the biggest things when first starting is realizing being uncomfortable in front of a camera is perfectly normal. And if you're not uncomfortable in front of a camera, you're like a superhuman or something. Like, everyone is uncomfortable. It's a weird thing, listening to yourself and watching yourself over and over again. So I think one of the biggest tactical things you can do to get over that fear is start making videos, but don't post them anywhere. Just start practicing and getting the reps in of just filming videos. Learn how to tell a story and get your point across in the first 4 or 5 seconds of a video, and then explain that in a minute, and then keep all of your videos under a minute long so you can really tell a concise story. And I think that will build the skills for you to just be more comfortable. A lot of people love rambling on and on and on, just like myself. But it is really honing in on, okay, how do I craft a narrative? How do I tell a story, get my point across in a 1 minute video? And then just do that over and over and over again and just get your reps in. So you won't like magically flip a switch and you're comfortable overnight, but it's just small progress that leads to huge changes.
Yeah. And I think a key thing you said just now is the reps. And that's like a common theme from like any successful person, anyone who started their business or just kind of like perfected a craft. It's, you need to put the reps in. Like, you're not going to go viral off your first few posts. You're not going to like be a master at whatever by just doing it a few times, right? Like, you need to put in the work. And that's something that is exciting if you enjoy it, right? Like for you, for example, video is something you enjoyed, and it just happened to be that you could, monetize that.
Mm.
So like in terms of like what I'm doing right now, I'm not looking to monetize this podcast. I'm just looking to learn and have like really cool people like yourself and Q and other entrepreneurs on here. So that takes a lot of the pressure off for me personally, because I'm not looking to like pay the bills with this podcast per se. But I think when the time comes and I've got a full-time job, or I want to be an entrepreneur myself, like putting in the reps here will help in the long term. And no, so I really agree with what you're saying there.
100%.
But in terms of going back to say a kid that has a phone and does not have any editing software, or maybe like there's free editing software, but that doesn't have many tools at their disposal, just like you. What are some tips for that kid who's looking to create like whatever it is, photography, videos, just looking to create? What are some piece of advice, whether it's like technical about the actual like, uh, I guess, art, or just in general that once they're starting to create?
Yeah, learn and keep testing. So from a learn standpoint, like we have all of the tools we need to learn almost anything we want in the world, with just YouTube and the internet. So start Googling things of, hey, say you want to be a famous painter or a graphic designer or a clothing designer, whatever it is. Like literally type into Google how to become a fashion designer and follow the steps and just like talk to people exactly what you're doing and exactly what we're doing on this podcast. Like reach out to people, maybe start your own fashion podcast and interview other people in fashion. Dissect their story and how they've grown to build their own career, but just constantly learning new things, whether it's from books, podcasts, YouTube videos, online courses. Resources are literally endless. So that's my number one thing, for anyone starting out and they don't really know how to build anything, or they don't know what they do, they don't know what their passion is. Just start learning. And then the second thing is just start testing. Like start breaking stuff. Start, like, once you read something, okay, implement it into your life. Say you want to start your fashion brand. All right, then start your fashion brand. Like there's there's so many ways to just simply start and just start those conversations. And there's really no cookie cutter way to do almost anything right now. Like you can always add your own little twist and unique spin on things. So just move fast and break stuff quickly, and then piece it back together, then break it again. So again, I don't know who says it's, Steve Jobs maybe, like if you're not breaking stuff, like you're not moving fast enough, you're not innovating enough. So that's the name of the game. How do you break as much stuff as possible, but learn from those breaks? And then that just goes back to the original learning piece. So keep learning, keep building momentum, and keep just moving.
Keep moving. I love that. I love that. Um, in terms of learning, something that I've heard you say like more recently in the new year actually was kind of surrounding ego and identity. You touch on how some people build their ego around, being right or looking smart or whatever it may be. But instead, people should build their ego around always wanting to learn and just being a learner. So that relates exactly to what you're saying just there. Because I think an issue that a lot of young people have, and just people in general, it could be any age, is that they want to learn, but they don't want to start. Like there's a huge fear around starting and putting yourself out there. And it's not easy. Like you can say you've built a following or a community rather around your personal brand, right? But you had to take those first steps into jumping into it and being authentic and being real and being raw, which is not easy, man. So huge respect to you for having the ability to do that on a large platform. It's really, really cool to see. And since I started being active on LinkedIn, you're one of the first people that I've followed and genuinely been inspired by, to see like how authentic you are and how honest and transparent, and also like energetic and passionate. Like you're a super energized guy in all of your videos, and it's contagious. And something you say, sorry, I'm going off a tangent, but
Go
something you
ahead.
say a lot is, and it's been like in a few of your podcasts, when you do like them, do the podcast solo and just kind of like vent out your feelings and chat to the camera. And it's like, if my videos, like if you're taking the second to listen to my videos, first of all, or podcasts, first of all, thank you. And I'm like, yes, okay, I am, nice. Second of all, if anyone can take any of like the messages I'm saying or like my drive and apply that to their lives, and they can make any sort of like betterment to their lifestyle, that is a huge win. And I'm driving and I'm listening to this. I'm like, man, I want to start doing. I don't want to keep thinking about it and like imagining it and envisioning it in my head. I want to start doing. And I'm not exactly sure what the heck that looks like. Well, it looks like this for one, but dude, like you're making an impact, which is like what you want to do at the end of the day, right? So that's huge.
Dude, that's the reason why I do this. Like thank you. Like thank you for doing that. And yeah, I go on a tangent thanking you and praising you, but like, dude, like I want you to know, like I really, really appreciate the hell out of that, because a lot of the time we forget that there's just other people on the other side of content, of podcasts, of YouTube videos, of whatever it is. And like, we're all literally, if you just think about the macro picture, like we're all just little specks of dust on this floating rock in space having this conversation. If you just really think about how bizarre that is, and like your ability to influence someone else to change their life, like that is some serious power that everyone has. It's not that I'm special, it's not that you're special, like we're all special in our own ways, but like anyone has the power to influence someone else just through conversation. So again, I really appreciate that, and that's really the main goal, is to that's why we're having this conversation. Like, how can we have this conversation that maybe one other person out there needs to hear this to implement that into their own lives to change, and then they pretty much share that lesson they've learned from us and we've learned from 12 other people, and they share it with one other person. So that's where the compounding effect of impact comes from, and that's what I'm really passionate about. So again, thank you, brother.
Yeah, man. Of course. No, it's cool to see. And it's cool to have you here in front of me today. Like it's kind of full circle. Um, but yeah, it's sweet. Um, so just kind of talking about, building your ego around being a learner. Just kind of wondering what that looks like in your life and in like your day to day. Like how are you constantly learning and like pushing yourself that way?
Yeah, ego is a super interesting conversation because I don't think there's one set definition of it. Everyone has a little different take on it. So from my end, it's just like your ego is like your, I don't even know how to describe. Oh, Sam, you stumped yourself. Like, how do you describe your ego? And that's a great question. It's just it. I guess for me, it's thinking you know something when you really have no clue about that one thing is. So that means a lot of different things. But when I say like ego, it's about always being right. It's always needing to know the answer and always thinking you know the answer, and really having a closed mindset to other people and other people's opinions. So that's how I perceive ego. And then I say like wrap your ego or identity. Ego and identity is kind of the same thing. There's a lot of similarities there. So your identity is like, what do you want to know like about yourself? Like, what do you want yourself to stand for? So if you wrap your identity around your ego, which is centered around always being right, always knowing the answer, having a closed mind. That's what you wrap your identity around. So when I say wrap your identity around being the learner, if you wrap everything you know about yourself in, okay, I'm here to learn in any situation possible. That just opens your mindset of learning new information from anyone. So whether it's a 12-year-old kid on TikTok or your 80-year-old grandma, like you can learn different things from different people. So that's really how I look at it. So just really developing that identity and going into any new situation or old situation and looking for a way to learn. And that's as simple as it is. Like, how do you become the learner in every situation? Because the more you practice that, the harder it gets, the more you learn, and obviously the more you grow. So that's what it means when I say like develop your identity and ego around being the learner.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, what are some ways that you're kind of like implementing that into your life? So like what are some things you do to, always be pushing yourself to learn? Are you reading? Are you taking courses? Or I know you're entering every situation with that mindset, but maybe just some like tangible things.
Yeah, I read every day. I have a form of online learning in whatever it looks like. So I have some online courses out there I take, whether it's YouTube videos or podcasts. So that's kind of like my form of online learning. I'm always just listening to someone else's thoughts, advice, opinions, and just really like taking what I want from those and just kind of crafting it in my own ways. So that's on the online section. And then I try to read every single day. So just read different books. That's as simple as it is. So anywhere from crazy self-development books to fictional stories, and more so on the realistic side of things, but like stuff like The Alchemist and stuff. Like that's super fascinating to me. If you've read that, if you haven't, definitely read that if you're listening. Yeah, it's just stories like that that really just develop a growth mindset. That's what I'm obsessed with. And then seeking I guess like mentorships and just like talking to people way smarter than you. I think that's one of the quickest ways to learn is to just surround yourself and your network, build your network around people way more badass than you, and then that's how you level up. So it's just constantly seeking I guess like advice from people that you would switch lives with. Say, okay, how did you build this? Like, and just start asking questions. And more often than not, people will want to help you out because they'll see themselves in you, especially if you're younger than that person. So many times I've just reached out to people and just developed a good relationship with them. And they just say like, hey, I don't like help anyone, but I just saw myself in you, and that's why I help. So if you're willing to just ask questions, more often than not, people will help you out, or at least I would think I would like to think people will help you out. So
Yeah.
that's what I got.
You would hope. You definitely hope. Um, Man, that's exactly what happened with Q though. That's the only way. Well, plus like COVID, everyone being at home. So he was at home doing a LinkedIn Live. And then I just commented in his LinkedIn Live and I asked him, hey man, like any chance you'd want to, like, I'm a huge fan also, any chance you'd want to hop on? And he's like, yeah, like I would love to do that. And we talked about it on the podcast. Like you need to take time. Like once you're like at the place that he is and like you're in a similar position where you've like started this company and now you have fans and like in a community, taking the time to, like feed into that community. And for someone that like, exactly like you're saying, like I'm looking at Q and seeing, how he portrays himself and the content that he puts out and like the skills that he has. Like I myself want to like move towards having those skills, like living that kind of life as an entrepreneur. So 100%, if anyone's listening and they're worried about not shooting your shot, shoot it, because you never know where it's going to land, hopefully in. And somehow I'm 2 for 2 from 2 guys from Milwaukee. So I think Milwaukee might be the spot. I'm not 100% sure.
Milwaukee's a hot spot. We'll connect you with anyone you want in Milwaukee.
So cool. So cool. So you're touching on like reading and doing these online courses. And something that like is pretty trolled online is like the rise and grind entrepreneur mentality, like never stop hustling, hustle 247. Obviously some truth to it, but it does get a little bit corny. But I saw your like morning routine. I don't know where it was. It might have been like your Instagram story or something. I wrote it down because well, first of all, I'm not a morning person. And second of all, I've never been able to have like proper structure. This summer is the first time where I've had a little bit more time because of COVID that I've been trying to like get up and work out and do whatever. But you, number 1, meditate. Super cool. 2, yoga. 3, exercise. 4, go outside. And then 5, online learning. How did you come at this? Like, how did you put this together? Like, why is this good for you? And like, why does it work? / how does it work?
Yeah, I guess I'll just touch on each one individually, and they all took time to develop, and I'm still developing them every single day and just skills in that base. But I just really started looking at my life because I was like, when I first got into entrepreneurship, I was working 12, 13, 14-hour days, 15, 18-hour days, like almost every day, day in and day out, Monday through Monday. And I just really got to a point where I just started reflecting of like, there needs to be a more effective way to do this. Like I'm unhappy mentally, I'm unhappy physically. And like, I kind of just got into like this kind of like entrepreneurship rut almost. Like I was loving what I was doing, but I'm like, I can sense if I sustain this pace, I will burn out because I'm not prioritizing other more important parts of my life. Like if everything is stripped from me, I know like I can work on self-development and like I can work on myself. Business aside, if I need to go to get a 9-to-5 job, if my business fails and burns to the ground, like I'm good because like my mental strength is good right now. So I guess just developing those, I just throughout the past really year or so, really more so like 2020, I just really started meditating more. So I meditate every single morning, and your mind is a muscle. So work, like obviously you say you want stronger, you like a lot of people work out to get stronger arms, stronger legs, a bigger chest, whatever it is, a nicer butt. So people work out, they go to the gym, they get the reps in, they lift heavy weights, they do cardio to work out. You can do the same exact thing with your mind, but instead of running 45 minutes on the treadmill, you can sit down for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and really get control of your own mind. And that's your workout for your mind. So that's how I view meditating. So I view meditating as just a workout for my mind. It helps me clear my mind. It helps me have a more powerful control of my thoughts. When faced with a stressful time, you know how to process it better. So everything is a mental game for me, and in a large part of life. So meditating is one of like the most foundational parts of my daily routines. And then I guess going into the next thing is like reading. Like I mentioned before, like carve out some time to learn and like always become the learner. So that obviously goes straight into online learning, podcasts, books, like I mentioned. And really like 2 to 3 more things is like yoga. I just started doing yoga once like COVID hit. So the past like 3-4 months, I've been doing yoga every day. And that's awesome because a lot of the time, like working out, your muscles are super tense. Like that's really the main point. You want to really drive your muscles and like work your muscles. But when do you take like proper time to like recover and move and really stretch your muscles and stretch your body and focus on your breath while you're doing these movements? So that's why I started yoga. By no means am I an expert at it, but again, it's just fun to get better and see myself progressing really over these past few months. And then that goes into working out. I try to work out every day, whether it's just an outdoor walk or going to the gym. I definitely flip flop between them. Just any ways to get your body moving. And then the last thing is just simply being outside, whether it's for a minute or 2 minutes or 3 hours or 10 hours. Like just be outside, because I hate being cooped up inside. So just being outside helps me free my mind, get clear, and just take in some fresh air. So yeah, that's essentially why I do, like, that's really like the five like value stack I have day to day. If I complete those, it's usually done by 9 a.m. or so. So I get up fairly early and then complete those. And then I know it's like, this is a good day. If I get nothing else done, I made myself a better person today. So that's really the main goal for it.
Yeah, man. No, it's super important. I mean, I I can't imagine, like, I don't know. In terms of like having that routine in the morning, I've slowly started getting that going this summer. Like I would wake up, work out, have a solid breakfast, shower before like I started my work day. And even just doing that, I'm like feeling like I'm having the best day, man. I'm on fire. Like I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't know, I've never taken the time to kind of just be left with my thoughts. That's kind of a daunting thing, but also seems kind of cool. Um, so I honestly, I'm speaking into existence. I will try to meditate. I'll get back to you and see how it goes, because the brain is a muscle, man. Like if you allow it to consume toxicity and you allow it to, be in a dark place and not be able to develop the way you want it to, like you're going to be upset. You're going to be grumpy. You're not going to be performing at the level that you want to be performing at. So I will definitely be trying to meditate. This is a goal. This is a 2020 summer goal, even though we're nearing the end of 2020, or I guess summer at least. But no, man, that's cool. Like I saw that and I wanted to point it out because routine is something that's super interesting to me. And I know that it's useful. Like I know that it helps people in so many different ways. So I think that's something I'm going to start asking like more people that come on the show, because I'm just trying to figure out like little tidbits that work, and like routine is amongst like across the board for entrepreneurs and like high performing people. It's a constant. So no, that's cool, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's something that, like, it's a constant work in progress. By no means am I perfect at routines. I break routines all the time. Like, I beat myself up over breaking routines and all of that stuff. I'm just a normal dude living life and trying to be the best I can. But yeah, meditating is huge, and you'll hate it at first. I hated it at first. But again, like the more practice you put in, the easier it gets. So just really focus on your breath. Just look up YouTube videos on how to meditate and just download like the Calm app or Headspace, any of the free apps, and just sit. So many people sit, or so many people go day to day from the minute they wake up to the minute they go to bed. it's some sort of information flooding their mind and flooding their ears, whether they're talking, they're listening. So just sitting in silence or sitting just with your thoughts is super important. And it's definitely changed my life. It's just given me a different perspective of, um, I forgot who made the post. I guess twofold. One of the posts I saw was the differences between being lonely and being alone, and it described those two differences. And being lonely is an external factor. It's like being lonely, you feel lonely, you feel like you don't have a support system, you feel like you're the only person on earth. Everything is like coming against you, and you just have all of these negative thoughts pulling down on you because you're so lonely. But then if you switch it and say, yo, I'm alone, and you're really connected with yourself, and you realize, okay, I have a support system. Maybe you don't have a super strong support system, but you have yourself. And just really digging into your own mind and your own body and your own development. I think that's a super foundational part of growth and just developing growth mindset in general. Of how do you be alone, and how Tom Billy says it best, like how do you feel about yourself when you're by yourself? And that's like that quote just put everything in perspective, like, oh, this is perfect. It's like you need to feel good about yourself, and that's why being alone is not so bad, because you learn. And then I guess the second part of what I was saying is from a stress standpoint, and you said really just like talking about meditation. Obviously, you are in control of your own mind. So everyone has stresses in life. That's a universal thing, and it will go on for from now until forever. In the caveman days, it was how do we start a fire? Where do we get our next meal? Right now, it's like, yo, how do we pay for my rent for the next month? How do I pay for my car? Whatever it is. So stresses will always be there. But being stressed out, I truly think, is a choice of how you manage your stress. You can have a bunch of stresses and not be stressed out because you know how to deal with them. You know how to think properly. You know how to take control of your mind, and you know how to de-stress and de-escalate your stress when faced with a stressful situation. And that all comes just from deep self-development work, I think. So meditation is, again, a huge, huge foundation to that, I think.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. And something that's been cool across your content is kind of you've been genuine about that journey for you, and like how you've messed up and how you have gotten yourself back on track, whether it's with your business, your personal life. And that's kind of comes back to being authentic to yourself, because that's how you develop, and like that's how you can be more self-aware and understanding of your flaws and where you can do better. But also with like your following and your community and the people that you're trying to speak to. So I know I touched on it before in terms of like being authentic, and a lot of the people that I've followed on LinkedIn specifically have garnered success through being authentic with their message, I guess. So whether it's you, Q, Shay, Mark Metry, like all these people really thrive off opening up and being their true self, which is really, really cool. And I'm gonna, again, hopefully try and start doing that a little bit more, day by day, piece by piece, pod by pod. But maybe just looking for some advice in terms of, what advice would you give someone that's looking to break down those walls and be more authentic with themselves and with their audience?
That's a really great question. And authenticity really comes from within. Like if you're trying to put on a mask and put on a perfect image online, chances are you're super insecure about yourself, and like you're hiding a lot of things, and that shows up in other areas of your life. So I think the first step is to like sit alone and like really analyze yourself and how you feel about yourself when you're by yourself. I think once you're comfortable with that, then you can start sharing with other people, and just describe that process. Like it's a super weird and awkward and hard thing to do, is to like really put yourself out there. And we all try to do it, and we all hide certain things, no matter how much we preach, being authentic and true, to like share everything and being a true open book, there's always things we hide. I know like Shay had a great post about this today or yesterday or something. She just launched her podcast, so that was another step for her to really share more of her story, being more authentic with her audience. So that was just a great example of, hey, you see this, one of the I would argue like one of the fastest growing, biggest LinkedIn creators really open up saying like, hey, these past 2 years, 3 years I've been creating, I haven't been super authentic, even though that's what she preaches. And she has been authentic, but there's things that she just hasn't opened up about. And that's why she launched her podcast. So but it takes a lot of deep work. I know she's done a lot of awesome work to heal herself and just heal past experiences she was going through. So I think that's where it starts. It starts within. It starts by yourself, and then just having those conversations with the closest people around you, and then start opening up about just simply that journey.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. It's really, really cool. And yeah, you and Shay had a really good conversation on your podcast, I think it was, just about how she was, coming to the realizations about what was right and wrong in her life and what's been hurting her and dragging her down. And again, that's just, being self-aware and having the ability to be authentic and real with yourself and say, hey, like I've screwed up at X, Y, and Z spots in my life. And now I need to, really, adjust and figure this thing out. And that's also a very powerful thing. Like, it's not easy by any means, let alone to share it on the internet. So I thought that was a really powerful conversation that you two had, which was cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. So let's turn the tables to a very fun topic of failing and screwing up and having a tough time. So right off the bat, just wondering if there is anything in your personal or like professional life that like where you failed and it really changed the way you work or think about business.
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess it's been just constantly breaking stuff over the past 2 years. I guess I won't. I'll get into like specific failures, but like overall, like I've never really had a super strong direction of here's where I want to take the company, here's how we get there, and like having that true set vision. I've always just flirted with a bunch of different ideas, and I think that was my biggest learning lesson of like it's okay to go through those changes and having those micro failures, but you can learn from those. So going one way, it doesn't work, and then having to pivot and go another way. So a lot of the time you can classify that as failures, but I just think there's lessons learned. Like I don't think I've failed in anything. I've learned a bunch of lessons. I've learned how not to do a lot of things, but like I've been asked the question before and I've always struggled with the answer because I don't classify them as failures. Have I lost a financial failure? Yes. I've had more financial failures than financial successes for sure, but they were amazing lessons learned and I wouldn't trade it for the world. All right. Do I want the $5,000 back? Yeah, that would be awesome, but that's not how things work. And that's not how life works. So, again, do I classify it as a failure? No, but just keep pivoting and like push past those, what would be a failure moment, and take a lesson from it, implement that lesson to your life, and then move on. There's literally no time to dwell on failures or failing and losing money or whatever. Like, all right, cool. You lost $100. You lost $1,000. You lost $5,000. What are you going to do about it? Go make it back. Go pivot. No one's going to feel sorry for you. So go out and just execute and find what works and find what doesn't, but just keep breaking stuff along the way. I just wish more people did that. I wish we were taught how to break things in school and how to fail and how to regroup from those failures. Like I could go on a whole nother rant about the school system, but like from a failure standpoint, we're seeing I forgot what study it is. It was essentially comparing like a community college school versus an Ivy League school. Same exact test, and the likelihood of each class in each school to cheat on the test. And the stats showed the Ivy League students were so much more likely to cheat on that test because they feared failure so much. And again, tying that back up into the conversation about ego and identity, they wrap their identity about being right and being smart on the outside and not really growing. But then the community college students are like, right, we're in a low level community college, low level by societal standards. I don't care to cheat on this test. I don't really care about it, but like, I'm not going to cheat. That's just stupid. Cause they didn't wrap their ego around being right and having that prestige of, oh, I go to Harvard, I go to Stanford, whatever it is. So that was just an interesting fact about fear of failures. But yeah, that's kind of my spiel
Yeah,
on
man.
failures. Yeah, I just wish more people failed more. But again, no really narrow point of, yo, this was the failure that changed everything. It was just a constant micro failures that have just led me to where I am today.
Nice, man. And it's interesting that you say that about universities, because I'm coming into my 4th year at Laurier, um, and that's in Waterloo, Ontario. But um, it's interesting, man. A lot of different characters, and Laurier has such an awesome community. It's very inclusive and very helpful, and everybody is looking to succeed. But there are obviously going to be people that are wrapped up in the prestige of it and wrapped up in the GPA and this and that and like what internship you got. And it's just, I don't know. It's a toxic circle once you get wrapped up in it. And I really try not to, like, it's not a good place to be. But interestingly enough, you have like a lot of micro failures that kind of compiled into these like learning, I guess like learning moments, I guess you'd call them. On my end, I have a ton of macro failures that turn into learning no matter what. So I actually have a story, if you'll bear with me for a sec.
Let's do it. Love stories.
And it's a failure one, so it's even better. It's the best. So in our program, in our first year, we have one of our business courses that goes like fall and winter, and it's basically creating like a new venture. It's called New Venture. So you're creating a product with a team, and you're creating business plans, marketing plans. It's like the most tangible thing that I've learned, or one of the like most tangible things I've learned in university. Awesome class. I loved it. And one of the assignments is to do a 2-minute pitch. So you're spread apart from your classmates, 2-minute pitch. And like, I personally really enjoy public speaking. It's something I've liked since I was a kid, and like, I don't know, I was into it. So basically it's a class assignment. So you get put into seminars of like 30 people. And it's a class assignment that turns competition. So you do the thing you do the pitch in your seminar, and then 2 people move on to the semifinals. And then only like, I think 10 or 12 people move on to the finals. And it's sponsored by PepsiCo, and it's this big thing. So in our first year, and like every year does this, our first year, it was actually a pretty dope product. It was like a thing that goes over like cans to like seal them. It's definitely a thing now, but like it's called the Captain. It was cool. So basically, I do my 2-minute pitch, make it to the semifinals. I am fired up. I'm feeling good. Like we're making moves. Okay. So it's like on another day, the second day, do the semifinals, and then we go right into this huge auditorium, like 1,000-person auditorium. There's like 200 people, like 200 of my peers in the lecture hall, and they don't tell you who moves on to the finals until you're all sitting there, like sweating in your suits and whatever. So one by one, they call up the top finalists to go up, to add some pressure. Like all of the faculty of the school is there, and a keynote speaker. Ours happened to be David Shilton from Dragon's Den. I think you know where this is about to go. So I get called up. Oh my goodness. I am like on cloud 9. This is so sick. Like about to present in front of David Shilton, get up there and absolutely choke, man. Like the only person of the top 12 finalists to just like screw up so royally. Like, this is my peers' first impression of me, all the professors, Mr. Dragon's Den himself. Like, it was horrifying. And I was like, what am I going to do? How can I possibly recover from like butchering this so badly? I'm like, I'm never hitting a stage again. I'm never speaking again. This is it for me. And I had such a tough time with it. All of my first year, I'm like, man, I screwed up. Like, am I even good at this? Is this something that I can even pursue? Like, speaking in general, can I do presentations? And it just went back to reps. and figuring out like that one mistake, that macro at the time, it's micro now, is not telling of who I am and what I can do and how I can perform. So that's just one of many. I've got a lot, and that could be another podcast on its own of how many times I've effed up. But yeah, man, that's just one time where I'm like really questioning myself, like, what am I doing? Like, am I able to do this? Can I speak? So hoping the answer is yes. But yeah, he had some really, like, David Chilton had some really nice words to me. He's like, man, I would have just run off the stage if I was you. Like, you've got some balls or something like that. But yeah, that was just my 2 cents on failing and trying to brush myself back off. And here we are. So
what happened? How'd you fail? Did you just like freeze, or did you forget your lines, or like
forgot my lines, and then like lights are on you, cameras filming, and I just like nothing, radio silence, and I'm like, oh.
Love it.
And then I like picked it back up and like tried to keep going. I ended up finishing it. I didn't like completely black out, but there was a good, and it probably felt longer because like I was up there, but a good moment. And then the rest of it was very shaky, and I was nervous, and I was like, whatever, but ended up finishing it. So it was okay, but I like, yeah, it did not look good. It was not a great
Dude,
look.
now look at you. You're doing this for a living. Like, and like the fact that you switch your mindset of like, okay, I could dwell on this. Like, it's in the past. I fucked up. I could have been better, but it's an awesome opportunity to learn. That's what it's all about. Like, that is it, period. Like, you got up, dusted your shoulders off, like owned your micro L. It was macro at the time, like you said. Like, that is the only thing in the world that you care about. You're like, I messed this up. This is once in a lifetime opportunity. 7 billion people will know I just messed up. Like, that's how you think of it, because that's all you know. Like, that your full attention is on that one failure. But it's like, okay, you go on for a week, go on for 2 weeks. You're like, oh, no one really cares about that. Like, that was just all in my head. So bravo to you. Thank you for sharing that story, Mike. I love that. I love that you moved on, and now we're rocking it here. So
we are rocking it.
Props
Hopefully. Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I'm coming to the realization that I may have set a time limit on this chat. So potentially we may get cut off in 10 minutes. So if that does happen, maybe just get a couple more questions in and see if it cuts us off. And if not, then we'll see what happens. But one of my last questions for you, man, being an 18, 19, now 20-year-old entrepreneur in a space that's, that's full of these like professionals that are older than you, inevitably, right? What was that experience like for you? And did you ever have any challenges being, like the younger guy in the game?
Yeah, I would like to think so, but I really didn't. I would like to have a crazy story of, oh, everyone bet against me, yada, yada. Like, I came from the dirt. I came from it wasn't like that. I was just a young hustler that just went up to anyone and just talked to him. And they're like, yo, who's this kid? And it's fun when you're young because literally no one expects anything of you. So just being there, people are like, wow, you're here, like surrounded by people older than you. Good job, dude. And I'm like, cool, I'm just here like doing stuff. So I never really had a difficult time like having people take me serious because I took myself seriously. I'm like, I'm here to learn. I didn't come in with a flaming ego saying, yo, old dudes, old women, like here's how you get shit done. And I'm like, no, I'm here to learn. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but you guys are smarter than me. So what can I learn? Like, what conversations can I have? So that goes back to developing a mindset and identity around being the learner. So if you're the smartest person in any room, you're definitely in the wrong room. So that's how I just viewed life. So I was just always put myself in rooms that I'm definitely not the smartest person in there, and just tried to have those conversations with people smarter than me and older than me, because that's really how you learn and like how you develop relationships. So again, I wish I had a crazy story of everyone bet against me. Then I bet on myself. Like, no, that's not how it went. Like, I bet on myself from the start, but that's just contagious. And overall, people will help you if they see themselves in you. So that's what it really came down to. And it really came down to learning and just building those relationships. And if there's a networking event filled with a bunch of 30, 40, 50-year-olds and some random 18-year-old long-haired hippie dude coming in, like, you stand out. So chances are people will be interested of hearing who you are, why you're here, how you got there. Are you still in school? Are you in high school? Did you graduate? Are you going to college? All of those questions. And I think that's what I credit a lot of my growth to early on here, especially on LinkedIn. Is I just stood out. There's not a ton of people who look like me on the platform, especially 2 years ago when I first started creating on there. Now it's a little more saturated, but yeah, it's just standing out. And I just always use my age as a way to do that. And now I don't really get asked, oh, how old are you? And I don't really have that. That's never really used against me, that I'm aware of, at least. So I'm just I'm just growing as much as I can. And that's really, really my focus. So I don't care if I'm 20 years old. I don't care if I can learn from someone 15 years old. Like, there's always things to learn.
Yeah, no, that's huge, man. Like, your story doesn't have to fit any boxes. It's yours, and you're living it to the fullest, it seems. So it's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Cool. So one more question for you, Sam. What is in store for Sam Lister next year, 5 years from now? What's going on? What's in your head?
Man, so 1 year from now or so, I'll be in a new place, new apartment, a few floors, same building, few floors up top from me. So I'll have a huge balcony overlooking Milwaukee. So I plan on building my own event company as well. So hosting a lot of in-person events is in the next year. Just really, really going hard on the community side of things and really bringing the top minds of my network and of people in the world together on how do we tackle the most important and pressing issues us as a generation or society face at large. So how do we battle those? So that's really my goal here. And it's just through starting off small micro conversations in podcasts, and then forming online groups, and then in-person groups, then like 5 to 10 year, like I want to build my own like buildings and event spaces and cities and fucking islands and shit, just centered around self-development and growth mindset and really everything. Like, imagine this conversation, but in a city. I don't know if you can do that. I don't know.
I'm down. I'm waiting
Yeah,
for my
like
invite.
that's what I want to build. It's like, yo, you go next door and it's like, oh, that's a crazy 9-figure entrepreneur. Like, I have a question for him. That's not like, hey bro, can I borrow some like eggs and milk or like shit you did in like the old days? But it's like, yo, I need some help like scaling my company. Can you help me? And they're like, yeah, of course. Like, we're neighbors. So just really building that ecosystem of like just a super small town, like hometown feel, but centered around like the top like entrepreneurs, badasses, creators in the world. So
Love it.
that's really like 5-10 year goal, but it's just constant iterations of that, because obviously I don't have the funds and means to build a city right now, but I can do a podcast, and that's kind of the first step. So that's what I'm doing. And that's what you can find me doing over the next few years.
Dude, that is unreal. That is unreal. You're the next Akon.
Yeah, sure.
Akon's building a city. If you didn't know, that's big news. Yeah, man, it's huge. With his own currency and everything, it's next level.
Akon currency?
I don't know. I don't know about the currency. I'm pretty sure with his own currency of some kind. I don't know if it's Akon coins or whatever, but man, Akon's making movements. Akon is the man. I started listening to Don't Matter and Lonely by Akon. Oh my goodness. Like new life in 2020. Like, I'm feeling good after listening to some Akon.
Damn, I need to catch up on my Akon. I have not known that. I know Kanye's doing shit in Wyoming.
Yeah, it's
interesting.
Very,
to say the least. Happy 2020, people. Happy 2020.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so just for the sake that we might get cut off in 2 minutes, Sam, where can people learn more about Sam Lister? Anything else you want to touch on, and just kind of send your message to the people?
Yeah, man. So overall, you can find me at on any social media platform. So LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok are my main one, at Sam X Lister. On really anything on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Podcast is starting blank. So I just interview a bunch of cool people and just share my thoughts with the world. And then my company is called Blank Slate Media, BLNK without the A in blank. And I guess the last piece of advice is just to test more things and do what you love. Like, life is too short to play it safe, so bet the farm, risk it all, and invest in yourself. Like, make yourself better and be obsessed over self-development. So that's really my last words.
I love that. Time to break stuff. It is time to break
stuff. Yes.
Awesome. Well, Sam, thank you so much for coming on here, man. I really appreciate you. Appreciate your time. And I'm excited to see the Sam Lister City coming to the world. It's going down.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for having me on.
Awesome.